And we're live! Woo! Welcome everybody back to the Deceive reality podcast. So we're going to, first of all, we have to get our thumbnail. So
my mask is crooked as fuck. There we go. Left is right. There we go.
Thumbnail. Great. So welcome to Deceive reality. If you were here at our first podcast when it was on, it was actually known as Magicians Gone Wild, but we've swapped everything over now to Deceive reality. So I hope you subscribe to this new channel that we have. I'm going to have more stuff coming up here, including interviews with other magicians from around the world and some other very exciting stuff coming up in the next few months. So while Steve is wearing his full conjurer outfit, Steve, what is something what's something in magic that you've seen in the last week or so that you really enjoyed?
It was like I took off my beard when I did that. Yeah, I want to get rid of this hat as well. But anyway, yeah, what did I see? I saw great stuff this week, actually. I saw an old video of Ricky J. I think it was on a forum, and I shared the link. It was brilliant. It was just his card throwing routine with the animals, you know, the watermelon, the whole routine. So it's just I hadn't seen it in so long, I forgot how good it was.
Yeah, you sent that on to me. I don't think I've ever seen it. It was on the Paul Daniels show. It was like, it's cool to see like someone, because most time when magicians go on stage and do something, we're like pretending to have a skill. It's interesting seeing someone actually have a skill and do something at like the highest level, which I found it was cool to actually see rather than just us normally pretending to have any sort of ability, which is how we normally work.
No, it was great. I mean, I remember last year when we were at Electric Picnic, somebody at one of the tents was like, "Can you throw cards?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can throw them." He's like, "Could you throw one over one of the tents?" And I was like a circus tent. And he's like, "Yeah, give it a go." So I was like eagerly like, give it a go 2 or 3 times. I was like, "Yeah, this isn't gonna work." And as I started doing it, there was a crowd starting to form behind me. I was like, "Ah, shit." So I was like, a big aggressive thing. I actually have a video clip of it. I got up to the peak, but it didn't go over. And then they're like, "Should just do it a couple of more times." And then I did it. But then I started throwing them back at the crowd, and there's videos of people getting hit with them. So yeah, don't sue me. But
I can't even throw cards like a foot. If I was in that situation, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to throw the card. Oh, there you go. Thanks, guys." It's on the other side now.
I remember being at a house party years ago, and this guy was like, "Can you throw cards?" And they were actually talking about Ricky J, funny enough. And they did the newspaper thing over the newspaper, but it was a magazine in this case. And he was like, "I'll hold it with my friend and you throw cards."
Yeah.
So I was throwing, everyone had too many drinks and maybe other substances. I'm not condoning it, but I'm sure they were high as fuck. And I was throwing cards and they were like skimming through the side of the paper. And then all of a sudden one skimmed up and slit right across his ear. And everyone kind of just paused, and I paused. Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, Jesus." And then he just went, "Cool."
Yeah, the right person to hit.
Like, just going around telling people that his ear was cut by a card. So I got off the hook.
That's insane. When I was doing the I remember some of that me cards. Like sometimes I can, most time they just like flutter to the floor. So I was like, I give it a go, and I actually just pox lucky got it, and it went like flying across the room. Then I do it again. I was like, no, I'm good now. But yeah, I just can't.
It's one of those things.
Save my life.
I'm either very accurate or very fast. You know, very fast. It's either it's hard to kind of do both.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's so impressive about that Ricky J video, and even like you could even see that Paul Daniels is enjoying it, because like for magicians we always love stuff that's with cards, but like not exactly magic, but like someone doing something with props that we use.
But the routineng and the timing and the comedy in it is just absolutely perfect. Like he says the right thing at the right moment every time. And he has all these
lineups for like if because he could miss 6 times in a row, and he needs to have a joke for 6 times in a row.
Exactly, and the audience are with him. They're kind of rooting for him by the end of the routine. Oh, it's a great routine, and it's one of those ones that doesn't get duplicated very often because of the skill level that's involved in it.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to watch it, it's on YouTube. I think if you just search Ricky J Paul Daniels or Ricky J card throwing Paul Daniels, it'll come up. So that's definitely good. And something I saw today actually, which I thought was really good, it was an episode of Penitentiary Fool Us. I don't know how new it is because I just saw the performance up on YouTube, and it was they got someone up, borrowed a ring off her. It was a ring she bought herself. because she's now married to herself because men are so shit. But they borrowed the ring off her and dropped it into acid, dissolved it to test if it was real platinum. And then we're like, yeah, it's real platinum because it dissolves. Like some cheaper metals don't dissolve, so you know it's 100%. And then they took an injection of it to show the purity of the platinum, and then injected that into a watermelon, and the ring regrew inside in the watermelon, and they had like scopes that you use like for colonoscopy or something, like going into the watermelon. It's a brilliant routine. But yeah, it was
I actually saw. I haven't seen that one, so I must look for that. But I love that one with Paul. I think they did. Penn and Teller did it on the Paul Daniels show as well, where they're in the underwater tank, the Houdini tank, and Penn is trying to find a card, and it keeps going wrong, and they're running out of time, and now he's in there like 6 minutes, and then he drowns or so, and he comes around, he's got the mask, and he's got the signed card in the mask.
I think they did that to John Cleese actually, if I remember the one. Yeah, I think they might have done it a few times, but it's such a good one. But yeah, it was just it's a great routine. Like they come up with so much stuff because they're performing all the time, and like they've got to do every episode of Fool Us. They have to end with one of their tricks that has to be like at a level. And they did a routine actually where Teller talked on stage for the first time.
I saw that.
He wanted to do a routine with like loads of language and stuff. Yeah, and Penn couldn't pronounce the words. Then he produced the megaphone and then started speaking.
Yeah, I mean, for people who don't know, just watch Penn and Teller Photos, and that's probably the first time they've seen Penn and Teller. If they're not big Magic fans, like he never speaks, and like we've heard him speak at events and stuff. Like he has done seminars where he does explain stuff. But when you do hear his voice, it just shows you he doesn't have the same voice for his face. It just doesn't match.
Yeah, it doesn't match up at all. Because like he used to be a Latin teacher, so like he sounds like a Latin teacher. But yeah, he talks like I met him after I went to see their show in Vegas. Like, oh my god, it was 9 years ago now. But I went to see him, and they meet everybody who goes to the show after the show. They'll wait in the lobby for as long as people want, and Teller talked there, and I was like, what? Because his voice is just so not what you expect. But
we could talk the whole show about how great Penn and Teller. I mean, great. Another routine with Teller with his Miser's Dream routine with the goldfish is like one of the. It's in the top 10. Yeah,
it's incredible, and their other fish. Trick with the fish where they make someone's phone appear inside in a dead fish. They did that actually while I was there, and their bullet clap, of course, which is just insane. I just knocked the table because this is a professional situation. Look, ooh, earthquake! I can do some of that Star Trek acting of the
ship. It's got a hip or something.
But. Oh yeah, definitely we could talk about Penn and Teller forever. And we noticed someone on the last video was saying that there was no magic in this magician thing. So I said I'd do a trick. Oh, life. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I've been practicing that for 6 months now.
I have a trick as well for anyone that's hating on the videos.
Wow, you made a bird appear. That's incredible. But yeah, there was something I've been doing a lot lately. Actually, I don't know if anybody in the magic world might have seen it. That Magic Stream by Illusionist now is an app, which is cool, so you can watch your videos. So they think they were giving away 2 weeks free for people who are signing up to that. So I signed up to that and started just binge watching as much stuff as possible. So it's great. It's great things like Netflix for magic. People don't know about it, but yeah, it's very good. So I think that's all the stuff I've really seen new in magic lately.
I know Rocco is involved as well with is it Magic Flix, which is like his version of something that's like a streaming thing as well. I haven't seen the one you're talking about, but I'll check that out. But I've seen the other one a few times.
Yeah, it's all of Illusionist downloads and stuff around there. So it's some very high quality stuff. I was watching some of the old Brad Christian street magic videos and stuff. They're all on there, which is great. Like that's like the things that I was doing like 15 years ago. So it's great to be able to watch that back and see it all and see how far it's come.
It's great when you see old footage like that, like some old video, like a videotape thing that changed into a DVD, or you see old footage of yourself, and then you remember, oh yeah, you used to do that trick, or I used to do that one, or you used to do a variation of that one, and you just forget because your reputation and your I suppose your repertoire just fills and fills and fills, and you forget how good some simple tricks are at the start. That are still really worth it.
I've forgotten more magic than I can remember. Like, like there's so many tricks I've forgotten, and then I'm like, Oh yeah, I watched like an old promo reel or something, and I was like, why did I stop doing that? Like they freaked out. So
Yeah.
definitely have to look at
I
that.
know only magicians will know what we're talking about, but the other day I was just messing with a deck of cards just to stay fresh and practice a bit, and I was doing the biddle trick, and I was like, "How good is the biddle trick?" I just forgot how good, just really brilliant trick, like.
Oh, it's brilliant. That's actually on Inside Magic, or it's one of those that the Brad Christian was the biddle trick as well. I was watching it today, and I was like, classic trick.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's like once we get to like a situation, you learn so much stuff, and then you just stop doing all this stuff because you think it's like, oh, that was what I did when I was 15. But just go back to it. Like it's brilliant stuff.
But then I saw Gary V had magicians on his podcast or something the other day. I think Julius Dean was on it, and it was just a very simple: pick a card. That's not your card. That is your card, and the whole room erupted. So sometimes the simple things are the best. Really are.
Yeah. Because you even see it like with the guys like Shin Lim won like America's Got Talent, and he's probably one of the greatest card magicians ever. And he's performing incredible stuff. And then he goes on a talk show and he does like classic magic routines, because you know that when you're performing one-on-one for someone, just doing a DL, for people who don't know I don't want to say the move name, but like just that into someone's hand, like that's, you can't get better.
Yeah, even Di Vernon said
like
the most important thing you can do is change one card into another for a lay audience or whatever. So I mean, if Di Vernon is saying it, it's fairly spot on.
Yeah, you don't go against Di Vernon anyway. That's what I'm sure. I saw someone post something on one of the Magic groups, and they said, "Who's better, Shin Lim or Di Vernon?" And the people were like, "Get out, just get out."
I'd love to see Shin Lim doing like a Lincoln Rings routine though, or something classical like that, because it's all cards with Shin Lim.
Yeah, it's just what he loves, and like I think to get as good with cards as he's gotten, you just have to like dedicate yourself. Like his Dream Act is still one of my favorite pieces of Magic to watch. It's just absolutely incredible. I suppose
a little segue from Shin Lim there into Colin Cloud. We saw his live Zoom show.
Yes. That was amazing. The Cyber Mentalist. It was an incredible show. Yeah, we watched that down here actually, and I couldn't like. You're trying to think of what people can do over the camera. Like that's what we've been talking about for the last 4 or 5 months now since lockdown and stuff. And we've come up with some stuff, and then you go and watch like the experts or like the guys who were performing in Vegas coming up with stuff, and it's just the level of stuff that people are coming up with now, and the innovation that actually having to perform over Zoom has brought out in the Magic world is like incredible.
Yeah, it's nice to see people challenging themselves and trying something a little bit outside the box. But I mean, magicians have done that since forever. Back in the Victorian times, they would have done that when they would have mixed magic and science together to make a new type of magic, and they would have just used science techniques. And I mean, it's kind of gone full circle to right now where people are using technology to do the same thing.
Yeah, sure. Before they used to say that magicians used like the height of technology, like the radios and televisions, because at the time magicians were the highest paid performers in the world. So they were the only people who could afford this stuff. So like even for me now, how a television work is still magic. So let alone someone like in the late 1800s, early 1900s, seeing like even radios doing stuff that you don't expect and things like that. It's really blew people away.
Yeah, like if your smart TV isn't working, Dave, you're just hitting it with a magic wand open for the fucking nest.
Oh yeah. I sacrifice a goat usually, and that usually does it. Yeah, you gotta sacrifice a goat to the sun god raw.
We don't sacrifice goats. Just to be clear, we don't sacrifice goats.
No goats are harmed in the making of this video.
More sheep, but that's mainly lambs.
Yeah. Obviously, like just for chops. Anyway, I think we should, before we get into any trouble, we should go into the good, the bad, and the ugly, which is the topic we're going to be going through today. Is the good, the bad, the ugly of playing cards that we've bought and used over our performing careers. So I think it's always good to start with the good. So if you had to pick like your go-to things with decks of cards.
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved the classic bikes, the standard red bikes. Since we saw David Blaine use those on TV, and then you
Blue
watch
bike.
any old Magic video, the classic. And I always use the red ones. It's just like a weird thing that I rarely use the blue. But yeah, I think at the start I probably had more of the red decks, and it just became part of a thing. And I had a whole color scheme back then of like red and black, so it was just the red deck was more variable. I still love those cards. I mean, even the elite ones of the bikes are great.
Yeah.
But I think if I had to pick a deck that I've used recently, would be the Gallery deck by Mark Spellman. Just enjoying it. Just the option that it has. For anyone watching that doesn't know anything about it, is it's not really a deck of cards that you could use for games or anything like that, but it's like a memory system deck of cards that you could use to make your memory better and stronger. So yeah, really interesting.
I think the original idea is that you use the cards and you have to shuffle them into an order, and then it's different pictures of like a house, a car, keys, whatever, and you have to make up a story as you deal through the entire deck, and then try to remember the order you shuffle the deck into by telling the story. And by using that,
it's actually strange. Comedians do something quite similar as well. They like a celebrity or a person in history or something, then they write a location or a time in history or whatever, and then a random object, and then somewhere else, or maybe a scenario or something, and then they pick from those things and make a story out of it and try to make it as I know Monty Python did stuff like that early on in their career to come up with kind of unusual stuff for the Flying Circus. So to do the same thing with a deck of cards is really good for, if you're a magician and you know all the moves and you do all the tricks, then it's nice to kind of test yourself and not like Trump's cognitive test where it's just like 5 objects. It's 52 cards, so it's a lot of different objects to memorize.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV.
TV. Throughout this, we'll just keep saying it. We should have our own one. It'd be like rabbit, top hat, magician, camera, TV. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. Try and remember it the whole way through. But yeah, I agree. Like my favorite are the bikes. Like when I started off, I used to use the blue ones, mainly because the guy who was teaching me magic used the red ones. So I was like, I'll use the blue ones, just be different. And then as time went on, I shifted to the red ones, and now I prefer the red ones, but I'll use either. I usually buy decks that are mixed, and I'll just pick out either ones. But for people who are into magic, once you get into magic for a while, you kind of have to, if you want to do certain tricks, you have to stick with the same deck, if that makes any sense to people, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then from there, and also just, there's decks that I have that I really like, but I don't use that much just because, like, the great thing about bikes is they're cheap enough that you can rip them up, you can write in them and stuff like that. But like the White Lions by David Blaine, I've got one deck of them that I got actually when we went to see him in Dublin, and I love that deck. I have it up in my shelves, Joe, just to have it because I think it's a really pretty deck. Even the box design is really cool and stuff. So I really like them.
It's nice to have collector's decks. I mean, I've got old they're not even, but they're like old 1970s like Jack Daniels decks and stuff like that. So it's nice just to have a kind of an unusual collection of decks. I've got like a limited edition Coca-Cola ones and things from years ago as well. So it's nice just to have them. You'd never use them for an effect, but they might spark an idea for a trick in the future or something,
Exactly. Even Theory 11 produced some really good decks. Like they team up with Hollywood and stuff like that. So they produced a Star Wars deck recently, which I picked up just because it's something that has Star Wars on it. So I have to buy it. It's the law. So I have the dark. They produced a dark side deck and a light side deck. So I have both of them. Again, I wouldn't use them for magic because by the time I'm finished a gig, my deck is going in the bin. It's ripped. It's torn. It's signed. It's burnt. It's like, it's in no way. Anyway, so if you're spending 15 quid a deck, you don't want to do
that. It's like that video that I sent you the other day from New York last year with the deck through the window. Like they asked me to do one trick, so I did card through window because I was like, well, I'm going to do one, and I'm not picking up all those cards. We're just going to leave after the trick. Yeah. So it was card through window for the close and out the door.
Yeah, because I think the great thing about just traditional bikes, it's harder when you're in Ireland because if you're in America, you walk into a 7-Eleven or a Walmart and you can just buy them for like $1 or something. Like I had a 7-Eleven deck actually that I was messing around with, but I accidentally put it in water. So, and that's another reason why I like cheap decks. But that's like what you want rather than, and then it's also nice to have the like more expensive decks that are just something like I might practice with or something like that, but I wouldn't actually use in real life performance. I'm trying to think of what other one, like the gallery decks, like the MSP deck as well as a good deck. Even it's again it's like a gallery deck. It's not really a deck of cards per se, but
Is that Anton James? Anton James, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's a great it's a great deck for, especially as someone who performs a lot of mentalism, mind reading effects. It's great. It's kind of loads of different images, kind of tattooy looking designs, which is great to give people options and things like that. I'm trying to think of what other decks are out there. They're the main ones for me anyway. That like I just think stick classic bikes.
Yeah, I mean, I still use regular red bikes for gigs and shows all the time. Always.
I've always liked as well. Actually, just thinking of it, it just came into my head because I saw that Penguin are coming out with the elites for the Tally Ho deck. I always liked the design of the Tally Ho deck, but I've always bicycles about my number one. But I always just thought I liked the Tally Ho as well. They feel really good. Like in the
difference would be that sometimes when I do a TV spot and I'm doing the Ireland Houdini stuff, I'd use green bikes. So when I was on the BBC, I used green bikes just for the sake of it.
Yeah, that's a great thing about bikes. They come in all different colors. Like they have gold, black, pink, I think blue, red, green, yellow. Like
he's a big man to color code everything he has, but what deck he has in his pocket that day.
Yeah, I think I know a few magicians who match their deck to their shoes because they're really into shoe collecting as well. So they keep it like lined up, which is mad.
Mad.
I just go whichever one's on top of the bag. That whichever one's in the box next. That'll do.
Yeah, the beauty of all this Zoom shit is that nobody needs to wear shoes. You're grand.
Yeah, exactly. Match it to your socks. Well, so they're the good ones. Now on to the bad, where this is where we pissed off all the deck designers.
My bad was actually my good years ago. Would have been the original Tiger deck with the black face, and all the tuck box was black, and it was all the white pips and the red pips. I loved them at the time because I suppose they were new. Yeah, but they're really confusing for the audience, and they just seem like a trick deck. Like if people kind of perceive what a trick deck in their mind might look like, they would imagine something that looks completely polar opposite of a normal deck of cards. So that for that reason they'd be my bad, because they raise too much suspicion and people are convinced that there's kind of something wrong. Great for cardistry or great for just a promo shot or a spring or something for a video, but not very good for the working world. So definitely be my bad.
I agree there as well, because like I used to love them and they're great, but I never got to, like, anytime I took them out, even to perform casually for friends, they go, that's a trick deck, because everybody knows playing cards are white with black and red pips, and these are black cards with white and red pips, and it's confusing. And also, even just for your scripting, I've seen people do that where they're holding they're like, oh, it's a black card, but in this deck it's a white card technically because the spades are white. So it's a bit of confusing. But yeah, anytime I took them out, people were just like, that's a trick deck. And I'd always be like, if I was making a trick deck, I'd make it look like a real deck. I wouldn't bring out this, like, if anything, having a weird deck like that should mean that it's definitely not. But I think for that as well, like for cardistry, they're great. But just as magicians performing tricks for people in professional gigs, you want stuff that looks as normal as possible. And even as we're saying with the bicycle cards, if you watch any sitcom in America, the characters are playing cards, they'll be using bicycle cards. So even people in Ireland who don't recognize them, subconsciously they look familiar because we've been seeing them on TV for years. Like Friends.
Yeah, you would have seen them in The Sopranos a lot. You would have always seen them in Friends if they were ever playing cards, or even when Joey's doing that stupid card trick and whatever. He's like, that was they were all bikes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like, even for people like in America, they're ubiquitous, but over here it's great just seeing that like people will still recognize them. And if any time someone asks me, Joe, like, oh, why are you using these? I don't recognize them. I go, they're a little bit bigger, so it's easier for people to see, because they are bigger than like your ones you get in the pound shop or the Euro store or whatever. They're a little bit bigger, which is helpful for performing.
For anyone who's watching the podcast that might be interested in starting to do magic, having the right cards to start with is going to be really detrimental to your skill, to learning sleight of hand and everything else. Because if you start using cheaper cards and stuff like that, you just won't be able to do some of the things that you can do with better card stock.
Yeah, because it reminds me of when you're learning magic, and like if you're learning something and you wanted to get it right, like even that, which is just a flourishy thing, like you learn it super slowly, and then you can do it faster. Or when I was learning, I used like a really heavy ring. So then when I was using borrowed light rings, it was a lot easier because you don't want to learn something with a light ring and then someone gives you a heavy ring, you can't do it. So it's the same with playing cards. You want to like you want to have the bad deck, which will get you up to a certain point. But then when you learn the sleights, you want to like it's like doing them in slow motion, using a good quality deck.
What were the cards? Sorry, Dave. What were the cards that you used to be able to get in Easons at one stage? Everyone was using them because you couldn't get bikes sometimes.
Oh, I can't remember what they were called. I know it was.
Yeah, is it Warringtons or Wallingtons or something like that? But I remember buying them, and then you kind of find the cards that you like to use as well. You end up buying lots of decks when you're at a convention or something, and then one might stick. There's a few like the Guardian Angels. I was using them for ages. I ended up getting a couple of bricks at one stage, and they were my day-to-day deck of cards. Just because they were just a white back, they still look like a deck of cards. They weren't confusing for the audience, because you have to remember sometimes that like you show them a club and they're like, oh yeah, the Shamrock one, or the one that looks like a dog's paw, and you're like, what? You know what I mean? So you want to simplify it as best you can for the audience, because they're not used to holding cards. I mean, we always have decks of cards. Magicians always have a deck of cards in their pocket, or can get one very, very quickly. So yeah, for lay people and people that you're performing for, they need to be it needs to be explained to them very, very quick and direct for them not to get lost, because otherwise you've no effect.
The other thing I found actually with the black face decks, like the white ones are okay, but it's not what people expect. But then the red ones, I found people with poorer eyesight found it very hard to read the red on black, because like a 6 on black is quite blurry. Like if people that don't have good vision, that's why I like decks that have like bigger pips and stuff as well, and just like things pop off of white, it's easier for people to see. Then like
just when you were saying with illusionists and stuff, a couple of years, 10, 15 years ago, that would have been their best seller by far. There's nothing wrong with the decks. You don't get us wrong, anyone who's watching. It's a brilliant deck of cards. It just doesn't really fit for performance. It's not really
it's the whole thing is one man's meat is another man's poison. Like other people might use them and they don't get questioned for it because it might suit their style or whatever. But just personally for me, I found I can't use like the black decks performing, because maybe it's just Irish people being cynical, but anytime I brought them out, I think maybe once or twice somebody didn't mention it, but everybody was like, sure, that's a trick deck. And then you have to go, okay, you can examine them and stuff. And like, it kills the momentum at that stage, I think.
Yeah, it could be like that as well in like, it could be like that in parts of America, like that deck is the devil kind of a stuff. So yeah, just stick with the normal white cards.
Yeah. And now for the ugly. If people thought the bad was bad, now it's black.
Yeah, so my ugly would be any deck of cards that gets handed to you. Like, okay, so like a nightmare for a magician starting off is to be handed a bad deck of cards from a pub that's covered in Guinness or covered in Guinness. By the way, thanks for sponsoring. Covered in Guinness, covered in Heineken or whatever, and it's all like stuck together, and you got 12 cards that are like one block of just Guinness and cards. That's definitely the ugly. Now, obviously, as you get more proficient with a deck of cards, there's a lot of good tricks you can do. There's a great one from Jerry Sadowitz that I've often done called it's called like Breakaway kind of a thing. So you get this whole story about this gang of thieves breaking into like a vault or something. So you give them a deck of cards, you have one pick one, they shuffle it back in, you hold it over a newspaper, kind of like we were talking about earlier with throwing the newspaper, but flat down this way. The deck is underneath, and you show your hands empty. You reach through the paper and you pull out the one card. But the beauty of it is you knock all the cards over the floor. It's a big kind of theatrical piece in the middle of a pub. It's great. It's one of those ones you can do as well with a deck of cards that is destroyed with 20 years of Guinness.
Yeah, when I was thinking of the ugly deck as well, I was thinking the same thing. It's like it doesn't even have to be the ones like the ones you have behind the counter in the pub always get handed to you. But I even find it that like you might be at like a house party or something, you're doing something with your cards, and someone goes, do something with mine, and they go and run away, and it's a deck like they've gotten from their grandparents, and it's been like sitting there, and it's like, again, maybe all stuck, or even just like they can be okay, but they're not great for sleight of hand. But as I always say, I said actually in my how to become like a magician video on my channel, subscribe. It's all about like you should be able to do some tricks with any deck. Like you were saying, that's one. Even if you do something like, if you don't know what a crisscross force, cut deeper, anything like that will work with Any deck. Basically, like, go look through like Kids Magic, beginner Magic books, the self-working card tricks. They'll all work with a really destroyed deck that you've been given, and just up your presentation to make it not look like the way people did it when they were kids.
We're saying that though. I mean, it is ugly and it's hard to, we're saying it's the ugly part of it. But I remember a time when I was in Belfast many years ago, and I met the owner of a venue, and he was like, "Oh, those cards are crooked, and those cards are, marked or whatever. Use these cards." So I decided I was going to do a haunted deck with his deck of cards, and I had a whole little premise about the Titanic and everything. And I mean, when I could hand him back his own deck of cards after I had done this impossible thing, it was great. So I mean, like you said, it depends. One man's meat is another man's poison. I think you said. I mean, it's true. Sometimes you can make an amazing, because they were like, but he did it with my cards, and there's a whole kind of an extra level on that as well.
Yeah, and like, just for the ugly, like, I have seen some cards as well that are like trying to be crowdfunded and stuff like that, and some of them are stunning and beautiful, and some of them are just like the most hideous things I've ever seen in my life. But because they are the ones usually like don't go anywhere, so I think they don't even have names, like, remember. But yeah, I think definitely like the ugliest deck you can be given is one that is destroyed. Or even I find the deck, my decks, any deck I have at the end of a gig is an ugly deck. Like, I do the bent card bouncing to the top of the deck in my ambitious card routine. You do that, and you bent the card, and even if you flatten it out, it's never going to be perfectly flat. And if you're doing like 20 tables and you do that trick 20 times, nearly half your deck is down like that level of situation, and you're just like, that's for the bin.
Yeah, one of my pet peeves is when you hear magicians going, "I just put a sticker on cards so they can sign the sticker." And I'm like, buy another deck of fucking cards, man. Don't be putting stickers on your cards. Because like, I'm just gonna put this sticker on because this is the only deck I've ever had. Bullshit. Yeah. I know lay people do think that though. Like, I love when people are like, "No, should I really sign it?" And you're like, "Yeah, just sign it." And you're like, "But really sign it," because they've had the same deck at home since their granddad or whatever. So they don't realize that a working professional could go through 50 decks a week. So.
Or even that they're like, "Oh my god, you ripped up your deck, your cards," and they're like, "You destroyed it," and I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't expect to leave here with my deck," like, because it's the thing. It's bits of cardboard. Like, most time, even if you didn't, at one point you could go into a table and you put it down, and there'll be like condensation ring from someone's drink. Like, you put your cards down, and that they just inflate. Like, you can't protect them. There's nothing you can do, so you might as well embrace it.
Yeah. Just you open. If you're a professional magician and you're watching this, just open a new deck of cards per gig. You believe me, you'll thank me for it.
Yeah, like, I've seen situations as well where I've been at a gig, and you might see someone using a deck, and it's already has signatures on it and stuff. So it's like, the deck should be clean at the beginning of a thing.
Especially now, I was just about to say COVID, and then you nearly fucking threw the camera at the wall.
You influenced me. I don't know how you did that.
Especially now, though, with people back gigging and stuff, with COVID, make sure that you're using a different deck per gig, at least per gig, So if you can strip out the deck and open a new deck, I mean, a deck of cards is a cheap price to play instead of making your whole audience sick.
Yeah, I've seen people like hand out decks at gigs, or like people talking online now doing social distancing shows, and they're doing card tricks. You're like, this walking around is disgusting. Everybody's touched it. Everybody's done stuff to it, especially during COVID. So, like, don't do card tricks that involve people touching cards right now. I think it's
yeah. We're only talking about that with some magicians there recently as well, just like that. And we're just kind of spitballing different ideas, like about what can and can't be done. And you most certainly can't be handing out full decks of cards to be shuffled anymore. It just can't be done.
Yeah, not until like everything goes back to normal. Vaccine. It's the only thing that's going to save our jobs. But yeah, definitely that situation. I'm trying to think of any other deck that I would consider ugly. But it's hard because like it's the whole thing of that, like, different things for like some decks for me, I don't like, but then I see them in like a cardistry video, and in certain fans, the designs make sense, but individually, they just look a bit chaotic. But then when they're in a certain spread, they make designs and stuff like that. So that's kind of
Yeah, I mean, I like cardistry and I appreciate what to do, but it's a separate form to magic. I mean, it's juggling of magic. It's another. It's not really magic in that sense. It's a great extension of magic, but it's kind of its own thing.
Yeah, it's insane. It's like it reminds me a bit like a gymnastics. It's like finger gymnastics or something. I never had the patience to do it. I've always been like, oh, I'm going to learn it, and then I think this is as far as I've gotten. Ta-da.
We can speed that up later. It'll look great.
Yeah. Oh, in post, I'm going to have like carrots coming out of everywhere. It's going to be a whole. It's going to be a whole thing.
I would throw in a little bit here and there, but it's never just the best moves in cardistry really are the ones that just get attention fast, and then you're into your routine. So even Jay Sankey said if you can just spring a deck of cards, everyone has that in their mind of magician, top hat, rabbit, and springing cards. So that's a given. That's like a stereotype, I guess, of the old fashioned magician.
Yeah.
But if you can spring cards hard and fast and loud, that will get anyone's attention. You don't need to be doing multiple shift cuts and everything else.
Yeah, I remember when I was doing stuff before, and there was like a TV crew there, and they were like, "Oh, can you spring cards?" And I was like, "No," because like part of my character is that I don't want people to know I'm as good with cards as I am for the vast majority of my performances, because especially when you're performing more of a mentalism style, you don't want people to think that I'm able to do stuff that I can do with a deck of cards. But then I have started recently mixing in some gambling demonstrations and stuff like that. So I'd be more like, I don't mind people knowing that I can like second deal, bottom deal, that sort of stuff. But the flourishy things, I just leave out completely because I want it to be more mechanical stuff that it's either something to do with the reason I learn it, just to go completely deviate into character motivation, is that like my character motivation is more about scams and stuff like that. So like I'm interested in how people cheat at poker or blackjack. So I'd look into a second deal, I'd look into that sort of stuff. But I have no real interest in flourishes and stuff like that because they're not really using scams. So that's why I do it.
Well, it's
basically an excuse not to practice.
Keep sticking with the excuses. But no, I've seen like you do a lot of magic as well. But I mean, that debate that's always been there with mentalists. Should you use playing cards in mentalism? I mean, I don't think I've ever asked you that question. What do you think about that?
I 100% think you should. I understand where people come from when they're saying you shouldn't, because then people just think you're a magician. But like you see people coming out with stuff like the gallery deck is great for mentalists and stuff, but you're introducing a prop that people aren't familiar with just to not look like a magician. But I remember, I think it was Luch was talking about it. Pretty sure, yeah, because he just portrays himself as a mind reader, as a mentalist, and he was saying that he was like not using cards, just using billets and stuff like that. And then he met someone and they were like, oh my God, you're my favorite magician. So like, I think it's a debate. The whole mentalist versus magician thing is a debate among magicians and mentalists, and lay audiences, like they don't know the difference. Like if you tell them you're a mentalist and they go, what's that? You go, oh, I read minds influence. And like in their head, they're going, oh, you're a magician. So there's no point getting out of it. So like for me, I do vary the line between both mentalism and magic in that I I've developed like a whole backstory for my magic persona, which is someone who got interested in scams, and that's how they got into magic through scams, and then realized that psychics were the biggest scam, which they are. Nobody's psychic. Don't sue me. But that the psychics were the biggest scam, and that's how I started looking into mentalism, which is it's an accurate story of like how I actually got into everything, because I was interested in magic and like the 3-card Monty and that sort of stuff. But then and then basically I saw Darren Brown and everything changed. But
it's funny that you mentioned 3-card Monty though, which is as much as a sleight of hand trick as it is a psychological trick. I mean, that would tie into either the idea of like mentalism magic or mind magic, which is another, there's a blurred line there as well. Like pure mentalism is, like you said, no cards, billets, and all that kind of stuff. But like you said, Darren Brown and all the great mentalism, Max Maven, they've all used playing cards throughout the time. So the people saying that you can't really use cards, I don't know who they are. I've heard it loads of times being debated, but I don't know what they perform.
Yeah, I always hear people ask the question, Joe, should you use cards and magic to the biggest mentalists in the world? And they go, oh yeah, I always hear people talking about this. I personally think you should use cards. And I've never heard somebody answer no. So it's like, I'm not sure. Yeah. It's a similar thing that, like, people talk about, Joe, getting your character right and things like that, and that, like, you have to have your powers predefined, which is just a completely different topic. But people talk about that you have to have your powers defined, and that, like, you should only do what you think your character should do, which I agree to a certain extent. But then you look at like David Blaine does all kinds of magic. Chris Angel does all kinds of magic. Dynamo does all kinds of magic. Darren sticks pretty much in his influence lane when he's performing. But you're saying, like, out of like the biggest magicians in the world, like the three guys who were like the biggest, Dynamo, Chris Angel, David Blaine, they do whatever they want. If they like a trick, they're going to do it, pretty much, Like they try and team it into themselves, and like it has to be a trick that they're interested in themselves, but like they don't have a set of powers that they'll only do this stuff. Especially when you're trying to perform people long term.
I think that's totally it. I mean, any TV magician or any magician that is successful is a master magician in that sense, that they've mastered all the elements of magic and they can pick and choose what suits them. I mean, I know I get typecasted sometimes for a lot of the stunts, but people have to remember that before Houdini was, the king of locks and everything else and handcuffs, he was the king of cards, and he was a phenomenal magician, meaning vanishing elephants and big grand illusion. But people don't remember him for that. They remember him for the escapes because they got more publicity.
Yeah, it's definitely. And I think it's the situation then is that, like, it's about finding tricks that suit you. And also, like, it's about the message you want to send as well. That sometimes I want to, like, you want to talk about influence or something like that. So you do a mentalism trick. But then other times you might just want, like, something flashy. Like, I've seen so many mentalists at the moment, like, if you look at their Instagram, they're doing, like, magic because it's visual and it gets across. Especially in the social media age of stuff, it's always good to have a variety. And I think it's okay to let people know that you've evolved. Like, Darren is an amazing card magician. He's one of the best ever. Like, he's released he's released DVDs on card magic that are incredible to watch. So it's about, and like he has done some card tricks for like the one with Stephen Fry. That's an incredible trick where it ends up smoking in his mouth. It's just an insane trick. Like, so I definitely think I think it's about you rather than the craft. So to say, oh, mentalism shouldn't use cards, I'm like, no. If you don't think that you should use cards for whatever character reason you want, then don't use them. But I don't think you should tell other people what to do. That it's like a hard and fast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm glad I asked you that question now, to be honest. Because I knew that it'd be a kind of a diverse answer.
Yeah. And I've seen you use cards and mind reading a lot, so you're pretty much.
I wouldn't call myself a mentalist or anything, but I do mental effects and I do hypnosis, and I mix it all into what I am as a performer. So yeah, I mean, I would dip and choose from different styles of magic all the time.
Yeah, it's like there's like mentalists use locks a lot, and magicians use rope a lot for cutting store rope. And I see that, like, not using cards and mentalism is like telling an escape artist not to use rope because magicians do the Professor's Nightmare. So it's like it's what people expect. It's what people recognize. It's a lot easier to get them to remember.
It's even the stuff that we were working on for the next stunts, being that we were mixing like magic and it's a magic in a formula, I guess, but it's more mentalism and escape for something brand new, and I think that's going to open a lot of different ideas to different people. I'm sure it's going to be one of these things that we're going to do one, and then before we know it, people are going to do it because they'll just see that it works, because it is something that you can mix together. And I was talking to some of the guys in the United Kingdom escape artists. I'm a member of that now, and the society, and we were all having a Zoom talk last week, and we were talking about what way you can incorporate a prediction into a certain amount of time to escape, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, because we worked on something like that for you actually for the Conjurer show, where you had to predict your time to get out and that sort of stuff. But yeah, and I think as well, like, people are probably going to disagree on this topic because it's been debated endlessly. But for me, the way I picture it is that, like, magic is the overall category, and then the sub branches off it. And mentalism is the sub branch. Escapology is, I think, card magic, coin magic, close-up magic, street magic, stage magic. Like, magic is the. It's like for people who don't know, like, my family's big into gymnastics. Like, there's gymnastics, but underneath then there's like the floor, there's the vault, there's bars, there's acro, there's with the ball and the ribbon, rhythmic. There's just so many different things, you know. It's like saying, it's like it's the heading, you know, and then there's different subgenres underneath it that people are into.
Yeah, I mean, it's like anything. There's going to be loads of different disciplines, and it depends on which ones you can use. But I guess the longer you're in magic, you can pick and choose and be like, I like a little bit of this column and this column and this column. I'm going to make something different. And all the successful guys have done that, like Copperfield and Blaine, and they've all mixed different mentalism, escape, and everything else throughout their whole career.
Yeah, exactly. I just think I don't really want to, like, limit myself in that much. Like, I'd limit myself in certain ways. A lot of times I don't want to practice a move, so I'll come up with a character excuse that I don't do it, like flourishing. But on a serious note, no, it's like you want to be consistent. It's like it's something I'm working on, because on stage I'm 100% a mentalist, then close up I mix in bits of magic. But even just, I like the effects and I like performing magic at the same time. But for me, it's just about changing the presentation. That's what mentalism is. I think Peter Turner was talking about that the difference, one of the biggest difference between magic and mentalism is just how you present it. So if you present it as a, like, boom, it appears, that's like a magic trick. And then, like, name any trick that's a classic magic trick.
Any magic trick.
Any magic.
Just a monkey vanish.
A what vanish?
Just a silk vanish, like a standard silk vanish.
A silk vanish, classic silk vanish. So the magic trick is you take the silk, you put it into your hand, boom, it's gone.
That's amazing. I didn't even see it.
Yeah, it's crazy. The, like, mentalist approach, so I'm literally just thinking this off the top of my head, is how I approach this. You talk about influencing people, and that everybody has blind spots in their head. And if you can influence someone, you can make them see something that isn't there, forget something that they've already seen through hypnosis, suggestion, other techniques. For example, if I was to take this and put it into my hand, you'd swear it would go in there. And now, just in this moment, you swear it was in there and you completely forgot when I took it out and put it in my pocket, correct? Because now it's gone and now it's in my pocket. And that's just like, I just came up with that just literally off the top of my head. Change it to be more of a mentalism effect. Obviously, that would only work one-on-one with someone, because everybody else would be like, unless you said you hypnotize the entire audience to forget that you put it in your pocket, which you could also do. But that's kind of like, just, if you change the presentation, any magic trick can be more of a mental magic or mentalism style trick.
Yeah. Like what you said, it depends on the person and the character, and can they pull off that kind of presentation?
Yeah, like any vanish can just be changed into that you're hypnotizing the person to forget something, and just go from there. And any appearance, again, is the opposite. You make something appear, and they go, "Whoa!" And you're like, "Did you not see me, dude?"
Yeah, and it kind of had kind of a glitch in the system, kind of a thing. I found an old video actually tagged in from the Pig and Porter event in Limerick there a couple of years back. It was actually 2 years before I actually did the show there. I had that hypnosis video that someone just filmed on the night where I was hypnotizing one of the security guards. But that video went crazy, and from such a little piece, you know, I mean, I didn't do a whole set or anything. It was just 2 parts of hypnosis for anyone that has seen the video or whatever. But yeah, it's mad how, like, a tiny little idea or a stem can go loads of different directions. You know, I didn't come up to him saying I'm a hypnotist. I just did a piece of hypnosis, and, you know. Yeah.
I always find a lot of, like, the easiest way to hypnotize someone is actually telling them you're not going to hypnotize them, because people have misinterpretations of what hypnotism is. So just saying this is
Yes.
I'm going to hypnotize you, their guard goes up because of like Hollywood movies that look like brain control and stuff. But if you say, I'm not going to hypnotize you, I'm just going to make you in a relaxed state to heighten your suggestibility, that's basically describing hypnosis without saying it's hypnosis, but it just makes people feel calmer and then become more suggestible through that.
Yeah. I'm not very proud of it, but I once used a SpongeBob routine to break up a bar fight. Long story, I'm not getting into it.
You should be proud of that.
But look right here. As we were looking here, there was a slight jab, and then I got to run across the bar. It worked. I'll tell you about it another time.
Yeah, we'll have to do a podcast soon of the good, the bad, and the ugly of performance stories and go through like our best reaction or worst reaction and ugly stuff.
I was only talking to Morgan Stripler about that recently, and he told me a hilarious story, which he has to tell when he gets on. It's going to be hilarious.
Yeah, we'll get him on soon to go over stuff, and we can definitely do that because we have some interviews coming up soon.
Yeah, I was talking to Will Roberts as well, which we had very early on at the start of the COVID lockdown. We had him on just on Instagram. We was chatting, so he's definitely going to pop on. He's doing a movie at the moment where I think it's something to do with The Exorcist or something. I'm not sure, but he's in LA on a movie set, and he wouldn't tell me, but I'm guessing it's The Exorcist. So he didn't tell me, and I didn't read his mind, but I think it's The Exorcist. So that's pretty cool. And there's a really big surprise guest that we have coming soon, who's like, I'm going to tip it as like the godfather of modern day magic. I'm just going to leave it at that. And yes, it's you. No, but he came back to me through email, and he seems really eager, and he loves Ireland and all that. So little clues there, but it's going to be great to have him on.
Yeah,
sorry.
We're gonna lock that down to make sure we have the date and time ready, and once we have that locked in, we'll start posting it. We'll post it on
There's a time
4 pages.
There's a time difference, and he's recording stuff at the moment as well, so we need to kind of work around him. But yeah, it's gonna be good, and I know every magician is gonna want to hear what he has to say.
Because at the moment we don't have a Deceive Reality Instagram and Facebook. They will be set up soon, and we'll be sharing them on our actual pages. So it's David Peace Magic and Spade Magician on Facebook, and then at David Peace Magic and at Steve Spade on Instagram. So if you follow there, you can find out all the information and just keep up to date. So that would be good because there's a lot of stuff coming with Deceive Reality that we're not going to be doing yet. But yeah.
Conduit test, go. What were the 5 things? Can you remember? Go. What were they? Go.
Rabbit, hat, magician, camera, TV.
Yeah. You're the smartest Trump. We're done.
Yeah. Or else I'm cognitively failing. It's one or the other. We'll have to rewind back and see if I was even kind of close.
You're close-ish. Well, I mean, that's how I remembered it. So fuck it, it'll do.
Yeah, I hypnotized us to change it. If you watch it, you see I was influencing us to change the words that I got wrong. So that I'm
going to give a little quick shout out to Giddy Goat down in Killarney, which I'm going to be chatting to next week, and they're printing my t-shirts at the moment. So here's one of them. But there's going to be more designs coming soon, and some hats and stuff as well. So it's going to be fun. So Giddy Goat down in Killarney, say hello to them, say hi, whatever. Or email me, give them a load of abuse. Like, why the fuck would I want a Steve Spade t-shirt?
Yeah, exactly. I've already done that several times.
You actually, funny enough, you know who added me on Facebook the other day?
Who?
Val Valentino, the masked magician.
Nice.
I don't know why, but he added me. So there you go.
I learned so much magic off the Masked Magician. We should go back and watch like loads of Masked Magician episodes, and then do a podcast talking about the Masked Magician episodes.
Nice. I think that's a good cue to put this fucking thing back on.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, this is kind of a clue to who we've got coming on as a mystery guest.
Nice. So before Steve blurts it out, I think we better end. And so thanks to everybody who watched. I saw one person watch live, which is always good. Thanks for coming. And we'll be back very soon with more podcasts, more interviews. So please subscribe, like the video, share it, whatever you can do. We appreciate everything, and talk to you soon. Bye.
Yep.